The similarities between high-performing teams, whether you're in a business or whether you're in a sports team, whether rugby or soccer, or it doesn't matter what game it is, there are so many synergies that it's unbelievable. Because in the long run, if you're looking at high performance, whether it's sport or whether it's business, surely the principles of being successful are absolutely the same. So what I've done from being reasonably successful in the corporate world was just take the same principles and then plonk them or put them into rugby and developing rugby teams. And for my last 3 jobs in rugby, it's pretty much worked. So I don't know, I might be lucky, but again, the same principles always apply. So what I'd like to do is I'd just like to show you something. This obviously, as you all know, was Rugby World Cup 2015 last year, where Georgia performed pretty well. And I just want to show you a little clip. It's about 4 minutes that will show some of the things that we did on the field. Oh.
The Lilos of Georgia against the Ikani Tahi of Tonga. Most experienced Georgian guy. He's their leading point scorer. International for David Zidakashvili. Shed Lindsay here, 6'4", 108 kilos, just blowing guys out of the way. The big handoff, unbelievable power, and it's all power there.
Vasil Lomjanija, who becomes the youngest player ever to appear in a Rugby World Cup.
action pack, utterly dominant throughout that first half. It is victory for Georgia. They're second. They've qualified for the next World Cup.
Every time anybody that watches that, anybody that was involved in that, who watches it, like even now, I was watching it the other day when I was putting this together, got quite emotional because. You know, it's interesting. I played that before we played Russia in Sochi about 6 weeks ago, and some of the boys in the room who had been there were crying. We actually had tears in their eyes watching it again, and it sort of struck me that you know, when you've worked so hard for something and you actually achieve something, that never goes away. It always stays with the actual occasion of all that work and all that blood, sweat and tears that they worked hard for, and for the ultimately for the success, it still stays with them for the rest of their life, as it does obviously for me who was involved. But what I wanted to take you through, the reason why I showed you that is that's part of something that was very successful for this country, for something of an absolute first, and we achieved history basically, and that was one of our goals. So our objective 18 months, well actually 4 years ago before I came here, just as I came here, I said to the then president of the union, I said, look mate, it's not going to take me 2 years to change this team, but it'll take me 4. But by the time we get to the World Cup, we'll be ready to do something that we've never done before. And he looked at me and he said, well, what will that be? And I said, well, qualify for the following World Cup automatically. And he went, please, 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 if only. And when we achieved it, he came into the changing room and gave me a great big kiss and a big hug and said thank you. But the reality is this, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but you have to set some objectives. You have to have a plan, because without one, what you'll do is you'll just keep going around. You'll keep going around and round and round. And whether that's in my business or your business, whether you're the leader of the organisation or whether you're one of the people who are making things happen on the ground, everybody has to have a plan. All right? Now, we set some objectives. One of them was to be the best prepared Georgian team to ever compete at a World Cup. That means we were going to be the fittest, the strongest, the fastest Georgian rugby team ever. And that was going to take a whole lot of work, which invariably took about 3 months of solid training. We wanted to finish third in our pool. So again, our whole aim when we talk to the press, when we talk to the players, was that we need to be third in our pool. Why do we need to be third in the pool? Because if we're third in the pool, we automatically qualify for the next World Cup in Japan. Now after a whole lot of time, we then said, well, what is that going to take? We have to win 2 games. But the first goal was to end up third in our pool. And then we gave them the how. That's how you're going to do it. You're going to win 2 games. All right? We wanted to compete with pride against the best team in the world, which is currently the All Blacks, and was the All Blacks, the current world champions at the time. And we kind of think that we ended up doing that. And as I said earlier, My main thing for the players, as we got closer to the time, and during the tournament itself, I just kept on reinforcing to them that this was their moment, their time to create history. Now when you wrap that up, it's pretty powerful and pretty motivating. All right? So, again, let's just talk about some of these things. So if we go to, click it again, building successful teams. First one. This is great that you've got this. Oh, if you just click it again. So great that you had this, because this is what I do in coaching clinics and stuff like that. So, oh no, okay, gone ahead. If you can just go back a little bit, please, just the first one. Yep. So, have one vision, one goal. Okay. So again, if you think about what we wanted to do, ideally what it was for our boys was to create history. End up third in your pool. Okay, out of that there's a whole lot of detail that has to happen. It might be for you guys to be the most successful consultancy company in Georgia. That might be a goal, and I'm sure Lexo thinks that that's absolutely realistic. Okay, so be clear about what it is, because if you go around in circles, actually nobody has any clarity about what our vision or what our goal is. I've read your vision, your mission statement, and I've read your vision statement as well, and your mission. Very good. Very good. Okay? And what it should be, that everything that we do goes towards that. So, you know, again, when we look at our one vision, it has to be something that's discussed with everybody. That's part of leadership. My goal is, I know where I want to get to before everybody else. I absolutely know where I want to get to. 4 years ago, before I took this job on, I knew that I wanted to make sure that this team could qualify automatically for Japan, something they'd never done. So I knew that 4 years ago. Okay? Now, problem was, not a lot of people knew it as well. So I had to convince a whole lot of people as we went through. Okay, so, but be clear, especially if it's you and your job, about what you're about to do, no matter what task it is. If it means that you have to perform at a high level, you have to be clear about how you're going to do it, okay, and clear about what you want to achieve. Okay, again, when you're in teams, discuss it amongst everybody else, because once we get the one goal, one vision, everybody's in on board. Okay, make sure that it's achievable. Again, realistically, did I think that this team could achieve a goal in 215 back in 2012? I wasn't sure, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. So I knew that it was just going to be, if they did achieve it, it was just going to be a heck of a lot of hard work. And we talked about it in Lexo's introduction. One of the reasons why we are one of the most successful, if not the most successful sports team at the moment in this country, is because we've got a lot of people working absolutely night and day. And that's absolutely critical for us as well, because we wouldn't get there otherwise. Once you've got your goal, your mission, make sure you get it signed off. Again, this is part of leadership, because if you don't get it signed off, then we've got one table that's with you, one table that's not, and other people that not too sure, where am I? So you've got to make sure you get it signed off, and then once you get it signed off, everything they do is just going towards that one goal. Everything that we do, night and day, everything goes there. Now, there'll be some people, this is north, that's south, west and east. Opposite to you, because I'm obviously... True north is where you always should be going. Just as an aside, if you look at north, true north, everybody's heard about true north. What happens with players, and especially young players, these are our values that drive everything towards true north. Sometimes players are like this. They go like this. And my job, and everybody else's job in the management, is to pull them closer to the arrow, to the true north. We don't want them getting out here, because if they go out here, could be problems for them. Okay, so part of my job, and as a leader of the team, captain, senior leaders, our job is to keep making sure that we get everybody going along this line. This is okay. That's okay. But it's to that one direction that we're all going. Okay? Next one if you'd like, yep. So again, have a plan and have a strategy. Now the reason I wrote this up is because I don't have to carry my piece of paper in my pocket and look at it all the time. So, not sure if you've heard this before, but there's an old adage that I remember I got told years and years ago when I started in the corporate world, and it was, you never plan to fail, so you never plan to fail, you only fail to plan. Okay, so you can keep that, write it down, it's really good. Because I've remembered it all my life since, and this is absolutely the key, that if you are about to do something special, you definitely have to make sure, as I said earlier, that you've got a plan for it. You've got a plan for people going off true north. You've got a plan for this sort of stuff. You've got a plan for things that happen in technology that don't help you. You've got a plan for a client turning around at the last minute and saying to you, no thanks, we don't want to deal with you. So what's your next plan? Okay, and that's again one of the keys to success, in my opinion, is making sure that you have a really good plan and it's detailed. Because again, another little English adage, the devil always lies in the detail of what you're doing. Okay, foundations before the roof. Anybody understand what that would mean? Foundations before the roof. Anybody? Anybody want to have a crack at that? Malika?
Yeah, we probably need to have a strong foundation so your roof doesn't fall over you.
Absolutely. Okay, so if you were a builder, you wouldn't put the roof on first, would you? Because if you've got no foundation, then it just falls over. So again, one of my absolute keys, and certainly in my strategies and whatever we do, it means that you have to do all the groundwork first, all the foundation work, the small bits. In our case, it's how to catch and pass a rugby ball properly, how to catch and pass then a rugby ball properly under pressure. So again, first step, get them to catch and pass properly, technique. Then the next step, get them to catch and pass under pressure. So some big guy coming at you and he's still able to pass the ball. Okay, so those are like small micro skill sets that are absolutely fundamentally important for us if we're to achieve our goal or make history. So foundations before your roof, or hard graft before the real neat stuff. So hard graft here before the neat stuff in terms of your roof. It might be making if you were in sales, it might be saying making 1,000 calls here before you get 10% of your best clients here. Okay, and again, in my corporate days, I used to say to my staff, my sales staff, listen, it's not easy. It's hard graft. It's a numbers game. Get on the phone, get out and meet your clients, get around your territories, get out and see people. Because only then will you be able to create something, whether it's a relationship or an actual sale. It doesn't matter, okay? But you can't sit at your desk and hope that the phone will ring. They didn't like that sometimes, but it was absolutely key. Review constantly and be flexible. So when you've got your plan, again, over the 4 years, lots of things for our business here in Georgia has changed. Before I first came here, lots of things have changed. And so you've got to be flexible, you've got to make sure that does the plan fit to what we're still doing. If it does, yep, we keep rolling, we keep going as hard as fast as we can. We keep working as hard and as fast as we can. But everything keeps going towards that one goal. But if there is a barricade or if there is a tree falling down, then you're going to have to do something about how you get around that. Again, that's about good leadership. That's about being innovative. That's about thinking on your feet. And I'm sure you people will have to do that nearly every time, every day of the week, more than likely. All right? So, have a plan. Make sure it's a good one. Next thing. Culture. Now, when I first came to Georgia, one of the things that held us back after I discovered this after 6 months was our culture as a group wasn't that great. Now, if you haven't been involved in a professional sports team or a high performance sports team, sometimes understanding this concept can be difficult. But culture is simply how we work together, how we behave together, how we relate to each other. And then if somebody goes out of true north, how we respond to that as a group, and then how we bring that person back on board. And I liken it sometimes to my 2 daughters. When they were young, just started walking, great kids. Now my oldest is 13, and she's a handful. All right. It's a very smart, bright girl, overachiever, but she's a handful. The other one, my 10-year-old, again, great kids, but fight amongst each other as siblings do. And it's my hardest job in the world for me, absolutely my hardest job. And I tell you that purely because when you're emotionally involved in something, it's really hard to be objective and think clearly sometimes. So it's my hardest job. Having 43 staff and a budget of 27 million, trying to achieve 27 million in sales, absolutely an easy task compared to raising two boisterous girls or 2 very highly strung girls. But they're absolutely everything to me, as well as my wife, and a lot of people know that. But so I get back to this in terms of culture. When the tough times come, it's your culture that will absolutely determine whether you get out of that tough time or not. How you behave with each other, how you respect each other, how you work together is absolutely critical. And usually in high performance teams, we set some values right at the very start. So we say to each other, okay, how would we like to be treated by each other? How would we want to be communicated to each other? What are the things that are going to tick you off, make you angry, and what are the things that are going to make me angry? What are the things that you're going to do that's actually going to tick me off and I'm going to get angry? And so we talk about this, and we set some things down in place, which is what we call our team protocols or our team values. And then again, everything that we do is, right, is this good for the team? No. Don't do it then. Is it good for the team? Yes. Keep doing it. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Okay, but your culture is something that you live every day. And again, for highly successful businesses, as it is in sports teams, it's not something you can choose to do on Monday and then forget about it until Friday and do it again. Highly successful teams in business or in sport live it every day. They live their culture every day by their actions and not their words. It's very easy. I had some people back in 2012 who spoke really, really well with words and said all the right things, but actually when it came down to living it, they were full of it. And so they only lasted 6 months and then I got rid of them. Okay, but again, because again, you can't keep people who are there to undermine what you're trying to do and what the overall goal is for the team. Okay, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, again, it's initiated by management, absolutely. Again, I know what I want out of my values and my protocols. I know how successful team should react and behave. I absolutely understand that. I've been in coaching for 20-something years now, so I should know it. And the thing is, I can initiate it, but again, your culture is driven. And let's take the example here. It could be driven by your directors, but really your culture of your company is driven by you guys, the staff. No truer words said in my opinion. Okay, so your culture is really driven by you guys. So again, you've got to live it every day. Best teams in the world, the best teams, the very best teams in the world, again, whether it's business or it's sport. If you look at, in my game, rugby, the All Blacks, best team in the world, have been consistently for nearly 10 years now, and certainly are the world champions over the last 2 World Cups, have one of the best team cultures in the world, if not the best. When you talk about Barcelona, and you only have to look at how those players react to each other when they score a goal. If you look at the faces of Messi when Neymar scores, or Sanchez, who's the other guy? Suarez. When Suarez scores, you look at how they react to each other. They're a close-knit team, paid absolute fortunes. Absolute fortunes. But you watch how they react to each other, and you can tell that their team culture is very, very strong. And again, I can guarantee you that if you went to, maybe not so much the massive big companies, but you went to smaller, high-performance business companies, I guarantee you the one thing that will stand out to you if you walked in the front door is the culture of their company and their people. All right? Again, massive for me in terms of driving high performance and also successful teams. Team before the individual. What do you think I mean by that? Team before the individual.
Interests of the teams are simply than interests of the individuals.
Absolutely. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? So you've got in our game, well, sorry, in our organisation and in the national team, we have 47 people involved, including management and players. 47. Again, if an individual doesn't live his values, doesn't live our culture, he's no good for us. Okay? He must live our culture, he must live our values, he must understand our protocols. So, if you're going to achieve something, then it must always be, our behaviour must always be, or be reflected by team first, individual second. Okay? Team first, individual second. And again, this is not quite right, but team of champions will always be beaten by a champion team. Now, again, what that says to you is that if you've got a team of individuals, eventually, if you've got one team and they're all together, they'll always be successful, because they'll go to the wall for each other, they'll go that extra mile for each other. When the times get tough again, they'll stand up and they'll be counted. Now, again, that's somebody like, in our team, that's like Mamuka Gugodze. Mamuka is an absolute leader in our, not so much by his actions off the field, but when he puts his boots on and he's training, man, he is just, everybody just goes, whoop, he says, come with me, and everybody follows. Okay, not great sometimes, because you want other people to get up the front with him, you know what I mean? And that's where we're starting to develop that right now. That's why this year was so much more successful, and we can talk about that a little bit later on. But again, you want people leading, you want a team of leaders, you want a team of people who work hard for each other, because that is basically your fundamentals for a champion team, not a team of champions.